Okay, fab. So we're live, and what is the date today? It's the
24th
of March 22. So we're just saying we're enjoying this gorgeous British summer that we're experiencing. Long may it stay. But the energies that are surrounding us on a collective level, whoa, they're deep, so deep with Russia, Ukraine. I can feel it quite deeply. I've been quite emotional the last few days. It's been mortality and death and things like that. So, and I'm wondering where it's coming from. I'm having that Virgo full moon for me was a big revelation. It was massive and it was brilliant.
That was last Friday.
Yeah. Yes. And since then, there's just been kind of lots of home truths coming my way. And again, you can't escape what happens on a collective level. You know, scientists have measured the frequency that's emitted on a collective scale. And I feel it. So I'm sure other people are feeling it too. And for me, it's coming through as mortality. You know, what's it all about? Like, who's going to be there on your passing? You know, what's important in this life, you know, and
so starting on a light note then.
Yeah, but oh, hang on, who's joined? Another Anne-Marie's joined. Right,
shall I show the chart for today, and then I'll show the chart for April?
Yes.
For an event in April. Let me just see whether I can actually do that. Okay, that's the one I want. So okay, so this is the chart for the moment. So you can see, I mean, for those who don't do any astrology, you know, a very basic simplification is blue lines are lines of ease, red lines are lines of tension. So you can see that there's a lot of tension in the air at the moment. Basically, lots of the planets are forming very antagonistic you know, aspects to each other, and so we're feeling it because the moon's involved. We're moving into you know, the quarter moon time, you know, past that full moon in Virgo, which was really powerful. It was really powerful. And you think what Virgo is about. I mean, it's interesting that you said that you're thinking about mortality and picking up that kind of vibe as well, because I mean, Virgo is all about, it can be about health, and our own health and our health practices and what we do for self-care all the time, you know, what we do on a regular basis. But it, you know, at the same time as well, there's a lot with that Virgo archetype that's to do with how do we serve other people? How do we actually do this and serve other people? And, you know, Virgo's got a lot of good qualities to it, as have all the signs. And the qualities that are really good in Virgo is this practicality, this ability to kind of sort the wheat from the chaff and rationalize things and be very kind of practical in terms of coming up with solutions. But the negative side of Virgo is that energy of negativity, is that energy of self-destruction, because remember, it's an earth sign, but it's ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is very much about the mind as well. And so there's this, you know, so it really links in how important it is to control your thoughts and your thought processes and your emotions, because they can have a huge impact, a huge deleterious impact on your health. And so I think that is largely what you are talking about. You know, that Virgo energy as well can, you know, a lot of Virgos can be very kind of like superficially very together, or look very together and very kind of implacable, but there's a lot of anxiety underneath, a lot of nervous tension underneath. And so, yeah, the moon is now in Sagittarius, but it's at that point where it's squaring the sun. So our emotions are at odds with our bodies, our physical selves at the moment. And then we've got Mars and Venus moving towards a meetup with Saturn. And so again, the yin, the yang, the male, the female within is kind of trying to express itself while being suppressed. So there's a lot going on. How do you see that? How do you read that?
Yeah, because what was that Virgo opposing? It was Virgo, and it was the sun in, is it Virgo Pisces? No.
Yeah, so the sun was in Pisces and the moon, it was a full moon, so the moon was in Virgo.
Yeah, so
the sun is very, very close and was close at this time to Chiron.
right.
No, so it's absorbing the energy of that. It was very close to Mercury. So there's all that kind of mental energy going on as well. And this was right in the last degrees of Virgo, last degrees of Pisces, something called the anaretic degree. So everything felt very intensified. And then, of course, you know, that we had that segue then into the start of the astral year, the start of the year, the equinox, when the sun moves into Aries, 0 degrees Aries. And then, you know, the energy felt renewed to a certain extent.
Yeah.
There was a definite shift from that Pisces water,
yes,
to the fire of Aries.
Yeah, I felt that too. I felt like that turn, that like, ooh, that lighter feeling, that, oh, anything's possible feeling. You've got your motivation, spring in your step kind of feeling again. Yeah.
And that was Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, and that equinox, that ingress of the sun was at 3:33 in the UK. So we know that 3 is like this important number of creation, of the ability to like make things happen. So when you get 3 3s, when you get 9 together numerologically, it's a number of manifestation. So although there are, you know, so essentially what it's saying to me at the moment, there's lots of heavy energy about, there's lots of dark currents swirling about. I'm talking to a lot of healers and empaths at the moment, and they're getting ill right now. A lot of people are, you know, and that's that kind of Virgo thing about closing down that health stuff and realizing what you need to deal with on a very kind of physical level, but also psycho-emotional level, to keep yourself together, mind, body, spirit, in order to face the few months ahead, because we're in for a tough old ride of it over the summer. I'm not going to candy coat it, you know, it is. So this period is very much about, all the planets are flying forward. You know, it's a very creative time. Spring is in the air, the sap's rising, all the buds are coming out. And it's very much about, what can I do to place myself within the context of all this and keep myself on an even keel, despite the fact that there's this constant monologue of stuff that's designed to make you fearful, designed to keep you in this low vibration, that's been pumped through social media, it's been pumped through the TV, if you still bother to turn the TV on anymore. So it's about know thyself, know thyself. That's really, really important.
Those numbers that you've just said, when I ran my chakra alchemy course, I was looking at the tree of life with the Sephiroth, and Saturn was number 3, and then 9 is the moon. So Saturn, this book that I read, it was great information in there, was saying about how Saturn is the great creator, really. I think I mentioned this before when we've talked about it. So, you know, Saturn being the things that puts heed to the, you know, puts everything into place in the material world. And then 9, which is the moon, which is our deep subconscious fears, or our emotions and sensations, if you like, our subconscious mind. So it's those 2 numbers that are really, you know, what is the imprinting that's being fed into the conscious collective at the minute? How are we interpreting it? How are we then projecting that back out into our own life, on our own situations, creating it for ourselves, thinking it's real in our own life, when what the Virgo moon showed me, along with some other stuff I was reading at the time, was about, and this is the work of Carl Jung, about the anima and the animus, and the thing that the false illusion that we search for within somebody else, that is an idealized version of the man we're looking for, or the woman that we're looking for. And it just brought back a few home truths for me. It was about, well, how am I creating my reality, searching for that false projection that I've fed into my consciousness through the imprinting that I've had through experiences and through fairy tales. So what is reality? How do I then want to reshape my version of what's real and not real? And actually that gave me a sense of massive relief, knowing that thing that I was holding in my mind, I think it's the animus, or is it the anima? I always get confused.
Anima is, the female. Yeah.
If it's the male or the female, like what's the false imprinting that I'm chasing? It's not real, it's an illusion. So stripping
I completely get that. I think we're all having to rewire and rewrite our own belief systems at the moment. Very much we're on that a real fast track with that right now. And I think that's why there's so much Mars-Venus energy in the chart, because it is all about that male, the female, the yin, the yang, the balance of those two forces. Because, if you have, say, a relationship, a negative, relationship with somebody, that is just testing that male and female within, and asking you to have a look at that. I mean, does it mean that you then bring your male through? Or does it mean that you become passive and yin and female, in a bad situation? So all the people we meet in our lives are really just reflections of part of us and lessons that we have to learn. And it's interesting what you say about this creation of reality. And I think we create reality at every moment. And so the trick of now is not to get dragged into the dark stuff, because the dark stuff is going to play out no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So if we feed it our energy, it's just going to destabilize us. So I just kind of, I mean, it sounds callous in a way, but there's a way of, I mean, say if we're looking at whatever's going on in, the area where it's kicking off at the moment, which I won't mention because you'll probably get your video banned. But say that, I mean, I know people who are normally quite rational, who are actually bleeding their hearts over that situation. And I'm not saying that you can't have compassion for everything that's going on. And we don't fully know what's going on because there's so much propaganda being spewed out around that. But not so much that you become, you lessen yourself, that you become so depressed and turn in so much that you can't actually function. And this time, because April is really, there's a lot of, I'll show you a chart for April. April is there's so much change in April.
Well, yeah, I mean, that coupled with the bills, the prices, the increase, the pressure on families just to survive. I mean, it's crazy, the way that, on the one hand, humanity has an opportunity to share compassion. That could be the ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, when you're pushed back down into survival mode, it's very freaking hard to come from a place of compassion when you think that, our basic survival needs, our reptilian brain will go, but you'll die. if you don't do this, if you don't help yourself, you'll die. You know, our number one instinct is to keep ourselves safe. So that, coupled with obviously sea on the rise, all people's bills going crazy, fuel going crazy, you know, everything going crazy, people losing jobs, industries probably closing down because of, you know, sea and other reasons, shortage of staff. You know, the world is kind of really taking a hit. So we've got this massive juxtaposition of fear versus compassion and empathy.
Yeah, but I mean, you know my views. I mean, I'm very kind of left field when it comes to everything that's gone down over the last 2 years. I won't repeat it now, but you know, I firmly believe that everything is being orchestrated in order to, I mean, if you look, I mean, just evidence of that. This last tax year that we've just been through, I think the government thought that they'd squash the businesses down so much, because I believe they're trying to break commerce. I mean, there's no evidence that they're not. Everything that they're doing is trying to break businesses because they want to bring in a new monetary system. But when they thought that they'd broken a lot of businesses last year, what actually happened was people doubled down, and the tax revenue that came out in January, February was far higher than they expected. And so instead of there being like empty coffers, there was actually 135 billion surfeit in the tax budget that they hadn't expected to get this year. And so two things. We are the only country in the world where all these energy companies do not pay tax. Why is that? You know, Amazon doesn't pay tax here. Why is that? You know, and the profits of Amazon could like wipe out our problems and our homelessness, and, you know, just from their tax contribution, never mind the energy companies who are making 14 million pounds an hour. So in the face of that, the budget was announced yesterday, the Sunak budget, and instead of making real cuts for people and easing people's situation, it was just completely arbitrary. 5 pence off a litre of petrol. I mean, something that's just not, you know, most people who are below the poverty line, they don't own vehicles anyway. It was just complete crap. And so, you know, with all this going on, we know that it's been orchestrated. We know that there's something quite dark going on, the dark agenda. And I think people fall into two camps. I think if you can at the moment, you've got to think of ways of being self-sustaining rather than relying on this central beast of government. And this is the problem. We've become too dependent on this government, which does not have our best interests at heart, which is not going to serve us well. And so the more you can disentangle from that, the more that, you know, we're going to like survive over the next few months. So, you know, if people are, I'm not saying that everybody is able to pay their way at the moment, but we all need to start thinking about ways we can lift our communities up so that they're not dependent on this central method, you know, mode of government, because it's not working and it's not intended to work. It's meant to screw us over, basically. So we're moving towards this April, just very quickly, we're moving towards this April, massive conjunction in April between Jupiter and Neptune. They're both at 2359 degrees, and that happens on the 12th of April. And there's lots of shifts of planets just before and after then. You know, Mars is moving into Pisces, and I think Mercury is shifting as well into Taurus a few days before that. It's building up to a full moon. Now, this date is momentous, really momentous, because I think I mentioned it here before, but it's quite, it hasn't happened for over 160 something years where these two rulers of Pisces meet up in Pisces. And how we react to events around mid-April is really going to shape our experience of the rest of this year, really. And so if we're not in a good mindset, we're going to get dragged under. And the reason that I say this is because look at the way that all the planets are all bunching up there, here on this side of the chart, all speaking to the moon, who's in isolation here. And so the moon is the people. The moon is our emotions. It's us as a collective, effectively. It's at 0 degrees Virgo on that date. So again, Virgo is being, you know, again, activated. And this is very much about how am I going to, with all this going on, because there's a lot of tension in the chart on that date. I was actually looking at the astrocartography for that date, and there's like really kind of like stuff that's hotting up over Russia, over North America on that date. So we, you know, we can talk about that. And actually the Chandra symbol for 0 degrees Virgo is a volcano erupting at night, which is not hopefully literal, but it's symbolic. And so this is all about, you know, what does it say here? This is about burning through the restrictions of the day. Now, these were written 100 years ago. Burning through the restrictions of the day, taking on, transmuting the world of ordinary consciousness. And so this is about kind of finding the ways to actually channel who you are and standing your own power, despite the fact that something momentous is coming our way. You know, so it's, yes, I agree with you, kind of like, you know, feeling it, you know, down and feeling that vibe. And a lot of empathic people are at the moment. And I'm talking to an awful lot of empathic people at the moment who are making themselves ill. Because what happens with that Virgo energy, we take our emotions and our mind and we turn it into physical illness. We need to be careful.
Yeah, and you know, I believe as well through experiences as I've had is at night, you know, our part of our consciousness goes off somewhere else and travels. So, you know, sometimes you can come back and wake up and know that you've you know, there's been a lot of stuff going on for you that night, wherever your consciousness goes. So energetically, you can definitely feel pulled. Let's just put it that way. So with this, with this April date, with this Virgo and the moon and quite a lot of planets obviously affecting that, with that lineup that you've got in Neptune there in Pisces. So Pisces is the ruler of the 12th house. So that can be like the hidden. For me, the 12th house is like the pregnant woman. You know, it's inside ready to give birth into the first house. So for me, that can be like the 12th house is, you know, the hidden, the inside, it's in the kind of, it's just waiting to be born phase. But people say it's like that can be the hidden house. So not visible, not out there for everyone to see. So then you've got like that line up there in Pisces, which normally naturally rules the 12th house, which is a water world, really. You know, if you think of the embryotic sac, it's like a water world. And those planets, Jupiter and Neptune and Venus, they're all water, right? Aren't they?
Yeah, no, so, well, Jupiter's more fire, but yeah, I mean, he's expanding the water here, basically.
So Jupiter blows things up, so expansive. Now, originally I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. You know, this is like going to be so deeply spiritual, but most people won't feel any form of spirituality unless their world is completely shook up. Your average person won't experience any form of anything other than outside of themselves unless they are tested to the max.
I think the thing that we're really that's really difficult to grasp for a lot of people is, I think you're absolutely right, is that we're here to learn lessons. We're here for spiritual growth. We don't grow when we're comfortable. We grow on the edge of pain. We grow on the edge of despair. We grow on the edge of darkness. And I just feel that and you know, we haven't even started yet with the darkness. I've got to say, I don't want to depress people, because I say this because we've got to learn to find our core, our sovereign self within the darkness, because it's about to get worse. You know, on this date, Mars is conjuncting Saturn. In fact, a few days after they are exact, they what we call perfect. And squaring Uranus, and also squaring the North Node at the same time. So Mars and Saturn are called the two malefics in the zodiac. So they, you know, they're the ones that really test us. And they're squaring our direction of fate. It can go either way. It can go forward or it can go backwards. Uranus is adding a little bit of unexpected stuff in there. I mean, I really do feel that the ripples from April is going to be some kind of event that's going to make us all reassess who we are and what we're going to be doing and how we're going to react to it. And you know, this whole thing that's happening over there at the moment is just the kind of the prelude, the build up to it. And so we've got to get ready. We've got to get ready. And it's not just about, you know, making sure the cat food's in and the dog food. And it's about, okay, you know, even all this aside, you're right, April the 1st, which is a new moon in Aries as well, by the way, we're getting more price rises. Gas is going up again by some ridiculous amount. People can't afford it already, can they? And then October the 1st, we're getting another rise. So there's the, you know, so people are starving. There's a, you know, what are we can talk about this until the cows come home. What are we practically going to do within our communities?
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't say that I'm a massive initiator or leader when it comes to things like that. But I know people out there are, and I definitely advocate doing anything, you know, being supportive of initiative that supports other people, because average households will not be able to manage if they have cars, kids, you know, gas, electric. It's just, and people will be tested so much. And if I'm sure initiates will start all over the place. They did when COVID happened, I think, if it was COVID, to help people eat a meal, you know, support people eating a meal, and people were cooking for other people, you know, the things like that. They do bring out that deeper side of people, because the lack of, let's say, spirituality, I wish there was another word, but you know, your spirit, your soul, your spirit that wants to be of service to other people, you know, that gets taken away when we are blinkered towards a materialistic life, because we all know that to strive to get to the top, sometimes you have to stand on people, and it can also be taken away. And these are the things that can take it away. So if more people are looking for that safety outside through money, material gain, they will not have the capacity to help another person. So it's things like this that push us to the max, test us to the max, to bring out that service within us all, which you can call spirituality or whatever you want.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that whole Pisces Virgo axis is about how do we serve, and that doesn't have to be, I mean, Pisces has the tendency, you know, it's a very self-sacrificial sign. It tends to fall on its own sword. And so the balance of that Pisces Virgo's practical. It's like, no, you don't have to fall on your own sword at this time. What are you practically going to do? What are you practically going to do at this time? And I'm not saying you have to go and stand in a soup kitchen all day long. It can be something very, very small that makes such a huge difference to just one person's life. But we're all being called at the moment. If you are empathic, if you are a healer, you're here for a reason, and that reason is now. It's not in 6 months' time, because in 6 months' time we'll have been through this, we'll have walked over the hot coals. It's now.
Yeah.
So unless, you know, so all these activations that are going on, because remember as well, we're going into eclipse season. You know, there's an eclipse on the 30th of April, a partial solar eclipse in Taurus. So that's going to be right on our food supply and things like this, you know, very close to Uranus as well. So big activation there. And then on the 16th of May, we've got the partner eclipse, a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So there's so much at the moment. I think in April and May, certainly, that are just like, where am I going to find space to breathe? Where am I going to find space to just kind of feel okay, and just keep myself together through all of this, and not be dragged into the fear, and not be dragged into you know, unwittingly maybe perpetuating fear with others by kind of, you know, talking about worst case scenarios. I've got a tendency to do that. You know, I can be a bit glass half empty. So it's, you know, really, for me, it's about, you know, convening with plants and animals and nature. They're all coming through for us at the moment. The plant kingdom definitely wants to work with us. It's making, you know, that very, very evident to a lot of people. You know, and it, you know, we co-evolved with plants. You know, every cell in your body has got a receptor for cannabis.
Oh yeah.
Every cell in your body, we are plants, basically.
Yeah, and every pharmaceutical drug has to mimic a plant receptor for our bodies to.
Exactly. And you think of that symbiotic relationship between us and plants. You know, what happens is that, you know, we breathe out and give them carbon dioxide, we breathe in and they've given us oxygen. And we've forgotten this, we've forgotten that we're part of nature. And this is why it's just, we're in the situation that we are at the moment, and with a lot of people getting very sick, and not finding the answers maybe from orthodox medicine. There's a place for orthodox medicine. You know, I come from a family of people who worked in orthodox medicine. You know, when I took my clown fall down the stairs in October, I was on the, you know, the phone to an ambulance, needed those pain drugs. There's a place for it, but we've gone too far on that reliance on it. And I think that this is, you know, where it's all kind of going wrong.
Yeah. And also, yeah, orthodox medicine is amazing. But, you know, it needs, for me, an extension of that would be so complementary, as in environmental toxins. You know, the doctors, like I have friends at the minute who are constantly being tested and the tests are coming back negative, yet they're so ill and just about functioning, and they're a version of the former selves. Now what's going on? Because it's not showing up in any blood tests. They don't test for everything. So what energetically is going on for that person, what environmentally is going on for that person, you know, what's happening to their biofield, because we're all electric beings. So obviously it's a disturbance. Where's it coming from? What's causing it, and what can make it better? You know, so it doesn't go far enough, really, because it doesn't look at, it doesn't now match what science says we are, which is energetic beings. So why is medicine not testing our energetics?
I think that when we're through this, I mean, there's a fascinating book by a woman called Barbara Grigson. Unfortunately, she died recently, but she left behind an amazing legacy of work. And the book is called The Green Pharmacy.
Right.
And you can get copies of that on eBay for like nothing. And I would, read it, because it talks about the way that the pharmaceutical industry co-opted medicine. Because before the pharmaceutical and the oil barons came in and said, right, we've got, essentially a lot of medicine contained, and I'm not a big advocate. I mean, I'm a herbalist, but I'm not a huge advocate for cannabis. But I'm just saying, a lot of medicine, contained plants and cannabis, especially cannabis medicines, and they completely overturned that because they wanted to instigate a method of what they called chemical medicine. And from that point, and we forget that it's a business model, people's health outcomes have just gone down and down and down and down. People have just been getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And we think that, and people say, yes, but we're longer lived now than we were 200 years ago. Well, we may be longer lived, but we're sicker. It's walk into any old folks home and in some cases, not all, in some, tell me that's a great quality of life.
Yeah, there's a great lady out there at the moment, Beth McDougall in the States. She does a lot with the scientist Nassim Haramein, and she's talking about your energetic body. She's a medical doctor, and she's getting amazing results with looking at ancestral beliefs. So she looks at past lives as well. So we have to take into consideration all of the influences, and obviously science doesn't back up spirit attachments, energetic links. It doesn't back up that stuff. So you have to kind of go with your own judgment with that. But our brain, which is basically the control unit of our life and our health, as so much so, a lot of the time, let's say, especially with the placebo effect, can prove that. But if you take your brain into a regression and you ask to be shown a past life of the root cause of your current problem or illness, most people will come up with a scenario of why that's so now in this life. Why would we do that if we weren't why are we capable of doing that if it has no relevance? So, we are fascinating models, and science doesn't prove who we are, doesn't know where we come from, and doesn't know why, what really we're made of.
No. And, I think a big problem with the chemical model of healthcare is that it does not see us, like you say, in this holistic way. It's always, I mean, when I was a kid, everybody was, every other kid was getting their tonsils whipped out. They never looked at kind of like underlying kind of like patterns of illness. It was like, okay, inflamed tonsils, let's whip the tonsils out. And now, or their adenoids or their appendix or whatever. And now we're realizing that nothing is there that's just extraneous. Nothing is there in the body that's like put there just, and it's like some kind of dead organ, necrotizing in the body. No, it has a purpose and a reason. We're only just realizing the importance of the heart and what the heart does. And it's not just a pump, it has an intelligence of its own. We're only just realizing that 60% of your serotonin is actually in your gut. And there is this gut-brain axis, and that means so many people are depressed because there's so much dysregulation between the gut and the mind. And so dragging it back to the astrology, these things that we're going through we have been going through, but continuing to do so over the next few weeks, are kind of saying, look, we need to wake up really fast to what we are, and what an intricate part of this whole matrix we are, and how much influence we have, and how much we can influence our own environment, our own mood, our own thought processes. Definitely. Because if we don't, we're going to go down with the ship.
We certainly will, because we will not give ourselves any other option if we continue to think, act, and be the same way then that trajectory of our life will just take us down the one that's been manipulated or made for us. So a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at the minute is soul contract, soul retrieval, past lives, entity attachments, all of that stuff. It's amazing. And, you know, the ancients have always said, you know, we carry within us this ancestral you know, set of beliefs, and the imprinting that we also experience, that we can remember as we're in this 3D reality, that imprinting in the subconscious, which is the long forgotten memories, it's just like the tires on a car. They just go round and round and round and round on the same motorway until we decide to go off and take a journey down a beaten track, which is going to be full of bumps, and we'll get flat tires, and, you know, the wheels might fall off. But until we start to reinvent our thought pattern, and it's really difficult to do, because, you know, I'm doing it myself at the minute, and it's like, you know, you've got to take those virtual reality glasses off, and you've got to try and see yourself and look at all the imprinting you have gained and where it's come from: mum, dad, experiences, school, friends, family, religion, society, TV. You've got to look at all of that and say, how has that impacted and imprinted my life?
Exactly.
It's
and I have to say that, you know, plants are, you know, for me, are our teachers. You know, they've been here a lot longer than we have. They're our elders, and they can help us. They can really help us. I mean, you know, maybe we should do a session on that, because they're, you know, they're here for this time, and they want to help us at this time. They can give us such peace, such knowledge, such wisdom, you know, and the water we drink, so important, the cellular memory in water.
It is. All of this is speaking to me so much, that the water, I know I don't drink enough, and when I don't drink enough, I feel so confused, and it's down to dehydration. But plants as well, I mean, might sound a bit wacky to some people, but go and fucking speak to go and speak to a plant. Honestly. Go and speak to a flower. They will give you the
conscious. They are conscious. They are conscious. Absolutely.
Ask a question. And this is what we don't get taught, Nicola, because, you know, I'm getting insights at the moment, because, you know, I really want to go down that healing path, work with people's minds and bodies. You know, and what's being shown to me is, you can talk, I've done it before, but you can talk to any organ in your body. You can go into that organ in your body. You know, by different ways of using your senses to do it, and imagination. Go in and look around. You might even be taken to a past life that's holding on to fear, and it'll be held in the kidneys or maybe the liver. It depends on the emotion. But go within your own body and find out what's going on. You can do that. You've got the ability. I've done it before when I've worked in people in that way who have not been open, particularly, you know, they've not known what to expect when they've come to me. And we've gone through that process of talking to organs, and the organs have a voice. They've got a story to tell you. They're alive, they're conscious. Ask, go in and do the work.
I do that with people when when I've got my other hat on, when I'm, you know, acting as a herbalist. If somebody's got, say, something like gut dysbiosis, you know, put your hand on your stomach. What do you need? Because we know really, we know that we're eating crap. We know that there's been this like ongoing thing that has poisoned us for you know, decades and decades and decades. So what do you need? You know, if somebody's having heart flutters and tachycardia, what does your heart need? What do you need? How can I help you? You know, I mean, we're electrical beings, and this is what we have forgotten. And this is what we're waking up to, and it's kind of like we're being fast-tracked into this, because it's so important to try and use that knowledge to radiate out to other people at the moment, that we're not just this meat suit that's walking on this, you know, the densest plane We're not just our physical bodies. You know, it's so much more than that. And we've forgotten, you know, we've kind of done a loop around to what you said initially. We've become so devolved from our spiritual self.
Because we're so distracted for whatever. I always have, like, I always think things, science, technology, it's here to serve a purpose, and that purpose, I believe, always starts out for the greater good. You know, inventions, there's always a good cause, but it's how it's then used. You know, there's always a good and a not so good side, and it can be used either way. So technology, it may have been, you know, TVs, media, they may have started from a good place, but when it's abused and the neuroscientists get involved, and, you know, everything else then takes over for manipulating our mind, which if you don't know that that's true, then you're dumb as fuck and you need to go and research it. You know, we are fed to buy because we are a commodity for, you know, the hierarchy system. So, you know, we're manipulated in that way. So, you know, it gets to the level of abuse. So what does that do? Then we think, well, we self-abuse because we do it to ourselves because we become addicted to it. That is then the purpose of it. So this then detachment to the body is so easily done through the phone.
Yeah.
You know,
If we all threw our phones away, we wouldn't be in this shit. I totally agree. I totally agree. We're just so manipulated. I mean, we've seen it over the past couple of years, haven't we? We're so manipulated that people are actually identifying with their abuser. Yeah.
Well, we can't live without it now. We can't live without, let's say, that form of abuse, because without it, we feel so disconnected.
But look how much people are still invested in central government.
Yeah.
Who've been, you know, they are the ringmaster to everything that's gone on in the last 2 years. And people are still defending them, still kind of, or just grumbling about them, but
we believe that they're our savior because, of course, they have that level of power and they have that level of authority when they're presented to us, but it's all just mask and mirrors.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at all the controversy that sometimes gets highlighted, I mean, that's not even the start of it, is it? That's just what's been filtered out there, the crumbs of what actually goes on in reality. So, but we still see them because that's what we're led to believe. As, you know, the savior of us, the savior of our life, but that's not true at all.
They're trying to engender a master slave kind of, you know, I mean, or perpetuate it. It's just like really obvious now. And so I personally think, and this is something because I'm involved with, or I certainly was last year, and it's something I'm getting re-involved with. I'm involved with people who run food banks around in my area and this type of thing. The food bank model cannot persist. It cannot persist because once those supplies start falling, people aren't going to be contributing towards the food banks as much. Once, you know, the value of their pound in their pocket starts falling more, they're not going to be chucking that extra can of beans into the food banks. So the food banks, they're already massively struggling. And so look at what the vast majority of people are doing. They're, you know, and I, you know, I totally understand it. I've, you know, been working in food banks. I'm not saying anything about that, but we're just kind of like programmed to get these like handouts from the food banks instead of going, what can we do as a community for ourselves to alleviate this problem? To me, I'm connecting growers at the moment and trying to find a way that we can get people growing in a, you know, almost like a victory garden kind of model in their own gardens, rather than relying on, you know, and a lot of the food that comes out of some of these food banks, let me tell you, is absolute crap. You know, there was in the first lockdown, they were giving kids There was an organization around here giving kids, and they were just giving them like pasta and cheese dippers and crap every day. You know, but there's all this land that's going unused, that's not planted, where you could be growing your own food, or your own nutritious food. And you know, it's a real act of revolution and rebellion to grow food at the moment, because then you're not in hock to these, what they're trying to do with the food system.
Yeah, and I understand when you're saying about communities, the food bank, it's one way, but then another way, which we've lost touch with completely, and you never know what might ignite that again, but it's to go and knock on your neighbour's door, isn't it? And to go, hiya, do you need anything? Like, how can we support you?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the trust is gone from societies.
All your disease, the germs, stand back.
What was I gonna say? Oh god, I can't, it slipped out my mind. Anyway, what shall we focus on now? So have we got any good news?
Well, I just, you know, I've got to be honest. I mean, I think that it kind of, you know, it is in a way, it depends on your mindset, but these things that we're going through are so necessary. However, I mean, you know, ask me in 6 months' time, you know, I might have a different perspective. I might have totally gone into fear and anxiety, but at the moment, I actually feel quite calm. This is very much about kind of looking at us as individuals and looking at what value we're bringing at the moment. And I think that that's a good thing, because I think we would just, when you think back to 2020, we were like automatons. We were just going through the days, you know, felt like something was missing. I don't know what that echo is on. It's really irritating.
Can you hear
It felt like something was missing, you know, and I just, honestly, I just kind of think that, yeah, I think we need to go through this, and if we can kind of think that, you know, that there's a need for us to go through this, and it's kind of okay on one kind of level, on a spiritual level, then we can get through this, and we can get through this and thrive and survive and build something that's, you know, that's not run by the pharmaceutical companies, that's not run by centralized government. That's my hope. That's my hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big hope. And what like comes through is like, you know, normally they say it has to come from the top down, you know, it has to come from management. That's kind of like the opposite way we need to think about it now. It needs to come from the bottom up. We need to cultivate grassroots up. Yeah, we need to start to cultivate what we want to see out there.
And it's happening. I mean, in my local area, you know, people are getting together and doing things like plant swaps and seed swaps. They've set up community hubs with people who are quite talented, who can, you know, they're saying, bring anything you've got and we'll try and mend it for you. These are like retired people who just like really handy, and you know, so it's happening. People kind of naturally, because I think we do seek others. I think we naturally seek others, and it's time for that kind of coalescence at the moment, to kind of like, what can I get involved with? What can I do? You know, don't try and get through the next few months on your own. Do not, because it's going to be a toughie.
Shall we pull some cards to see what's coming up?
Any questions people got, doesn't have to be linked to what we do.
If anybody's watching, if they've got any questions or they want us to look at an area of their life, then let us know. So what's the next big event that we've got coming up then? Is it the eclipse?
No, I mean, it's definitely that 12th of April, Jupiter and Neptune. Yeah, I think that is the and then the next really big, although we've got a Saturn Mars thing a couple of days later. After that, it is the eclipse on the 30th of April. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Saturn and Mars. So we've got the God of War and the Lord of Karma opposing
Uranus squaring nodes. Yeah.
We're in the Great Awakener.
Yeah.
And our North Node of Fate, right?
Yeah.
Hold on to your hats for that one. And when's that happening?
Let me see when they're conjunct exactly. I did write it down, 5th of April.
Okay. Okay, so if we pull cards for the collectors, should we do it for the 12th of April, or what do you think?
Let's just see what April is about.
Okay.
Let's just see. Well, maybe that's a bit too vague what April's about, because I just think advice for how we navigate through April and May.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
So I've got the Star, the Ace of Wands, and the Ace of Swords, and the 4 of Wands. So Star is that healing, that's the renewal of faith.
It's also the 11th house. It's all that community networks.
And Aquarius, it's Aquarius, isn't it? The
Yeah.
Ace of Swords, that could be like a complete like new way of thinking, a complete change, a decision that's made. It can come from you, or it can be kind of thrust upon you, I guess, or it's just something that you decide upon yourself. And then the 4 of Wands, what would you say that's about? That's about trying to find stability, but with it being kind of fire. I don't know, that's got something to do with the structure and the form, isn't it?
I think so, because fire creates things. And I just think that this is a really potent time to create something and then hold it and work on it. So like you are going off on this thing where you're doing quite esoteric stuff around the whole kind of magnetism and bioelectrical stuff. And, that's your new thing. And I think go that.
Yeah. Yeah. So healing, new decisions, and really cooking up the thing that you want, whether it be balance, a new start, or something that you want to have in your reality.
Mine's pretty much the same, actually. I've got the 6 of Wands, and the 6 is a really nice number because it's the number of Venus. So this is very much about moving things forward after difficulty, after the 5. 5 is Mars's number, it's a difficult number. And actually Venus moves into Pisces on the 5th of April. So that's quite a nice, for a month or so, or 6 weeks, that'll be a really nice influence, because there's a feeling at the moment of not quite being able to get what you want. But Venus likes being in Pisces. And then it's followed by the Queen of Cups. Nice. So it's about really having passion and love for the moment, for the now, and being in control of your emotions. And if you find yourself spinning out, and we all do, I'm not saying that I'm this kind of like, I'm so calm and I'm just floating through all this crap, but if you find yourself spinning off, go and just find your happy place, wherever that is. Mine's on my back garden. Where I start planning, right, I'm going to grow these herbs this year, I'm going to do this, and so if you just immerse yourself in something else, turn the damn TV off. And the last card is the King of Pentacles, and it's about building new solid foundations for yourself that are just more connected. The King of Pentacles is Taurus, it's Gaia, it's a whole earth system, it's just integration of all these different parts, and realizing that whatever we do affects something around the world.
That's so true. That's so true. I think these eclipses are going to be big, and like what's coming through to me at the minute. I mean, all relative to my own life. I don't have any insight into anyone else's life except my own. But what the thing for me is, I keep losing sight of my dreams, and I keep getting knocked off track through different things, which is generally fear. So it's like, I understand that I've taken a sidestep away from my alignment with what I want and where I want to go and what is really important to me. And I've done that through fear, thinking, oh, well, this will do, or, oh, well, you'll just have to accept that because it's not going to get any better. But that then feeds into this collective unrest.
Yeah.
So if the more of us can potentially realign ourselves, maybe with that Four of Wands, realign ourselves to our passions and our desires, our hopes, dreams and wishes, then that really does test your endurance and your faith. The Star card, it does test that belief system that you've got about yourself, your own level of deserving, and that you can create the reality that you want, that it belongs to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you one really good plant for kind of working with during this time as an ally for remembering dreams, having very lucid dreams, is Artemisia, mugwort.
Yeah, Hogwarts, yeah.
So drink mugwort tea, especially half an hour before bed. You know, it's also great what we call nervine, so it just calms us down and gets us into a state anyway. Or just sleep. If you don't want to drink mugwort, sleep with some under your pillow. And what you tend to do is you have like really lucid prophetic dreams, but you also remember them.
Oh yeah, that's good, because I tend to forget them. It's so annoying. They just literally, I remember some, but then the rest just slips. It feels like it just slips through my memory. It just slips, and I have to really try and focus on bringing that back. You've just reminded me of something that I did dream about the other night, and I was like, oh, I need to remember that. I was trying to recall it. It was about archetypes. I can't remember now, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's really cool. So maybe we should do some stuff on herbs and the body and holistic wellness.
Yeah. Drink your nettles at the moment and your cleavers. I mean, talking about shifting, I mean, I wrote a post on my page about gallium cleavers. They call it goose grass. It's that stuff that when you're taking the dog for a walk, all the little burrs stick to you. That stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lymphatic. And so it's really good for moving the lymph in your body, getting everything circulating. But when your lymph circulates, like any of the fluids in your body, and it's a plant of the moon, your emotions start circulating.
Yeah. Your lymph, yeah. That's something I struggle with a bit, I think, my lymph.
Yeah, lymph and nettles at the moment. They're both, you know, the top bits of the nettle. You know, there's so much you can do with them. You can make it into a tea. You can make it into a tincture. You can stick it in vinegar for 3 weeks and then use spoonfuls of it. And it's so powerful. These spring tonic herbs for cleaning everything out, you know, getting the blood clean, getting everything moving, getting your liver sorted out. And you'll find that, when we get these kind of this disconnect and this kind of fear, it's because we're not in this balance of everything moving around. Something's stuck. You know, and as you know, the liver is, I mean, if anybody's watching this and they keep waking up around 3 a.m. in the morning, that's your liver screaming at you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the time to get your liver tonics in. Dandelion root, brilliant nutritive tonic.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
There's things we can do and things we do have control over. Yeah. I'm not watching the news at the moment. I just like it, and I stopped watching it when somebody pointed out that some of the footage that we were getting of what was happening over there was actually from another war. They were propaganda. They were using blown up buildings from years ago. Manipulation. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying we've got to be careful filters of the information that we allow ourselves to take.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Need to discern what we're watching and what we're believing. Thank you so much, Nicola. I will post your links below because you offer readings.
Yeah, I've got an astrology course that just literally started last night. If anybody still wants to join us on that, it was a good first night, and we've got another 6-7 weeks to go of that.
Excellent. I can highly recommend that.
I'll post a link for that as well. Yeah.
All right, take care, my spiritual mama.
All right, lovely.
See you soon. Take care, everyone.